They say betrayal is a blade that cuts twice, once through your heart and again through the illusions you built around it. I learned that the day a single text shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The text message arrived at exactly 3:17 p.m. on a Monday, a hotel confirmation for a reservation. My husband never told me about one-room ocean view, king bed, champagne package, the sender, his executive assistant at our company. Her name was Hannah Collins. I stared at my phone, the bright screen illuminating my face in the dim light of my office. My fingers trembled slightly as I scrolled through the details. Check-in Friday, check-out Sunday. The Azure Bay Retreat, one of the most exclusive coastal getaways in California. I hadn't seen that message by accident. For weeks, something had felt off. Ethan had been working late, taking mysterious calls in another room, password protecting his phone. After 14 years of marriage and building our marketing consultancy into a multi-million-dollar firm together, I knew when something wasn't right. "Avery, we need you in the conference room." My own assistant's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I straightened my silk blouse and smoothed my chestnut hair, composed myself, and walked confidently into the meeting. That's what I'd always done. Remain poised, remain professional. Avery Mitchell, co-founder and chief strategy officer, the woman who never cracked under pressure. Across the conference table sat Ethan, his dark blonde hair perfectly styled, tie slightly loosened after a long day. Beside him was Hannah, taking notes on her tablet, occasionally glancing up at him with that look I now recognized wasn't just professional admiration. "Sorry I'm late," I said, sliding into my chair. "Had to finish some calls." Ethan nodded, not quite meeting my eyes. We were just discussing the East Bridge acquisition. The meeting proceeded normally. Presentations, projections, strategies, but everything felt different. Now, every smile between them, every inside comment, every accidental brush of hands passing documents. I watched them like watching actors in a play, seeing the performance behind the performance. Later that evening, Ethan mentioned he had an important client meeting in Seattle that weekend. He'd have to fly out Friday morning. "Seattle?" I asked, carefully measuring my tone as I poured myself a glass of Cabernet. "Which client?" "Harrison Group," he said without hesitation. The lie flowed so easily from his lips. "They're considering a major upgrade to their systems." "Sounds important," I replied, taking a slow sip. "Good luck with that." That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. 14 years, 2 miscarriages, building our company from nothing in our apartment to employing over 150 people. All the times I'd supported him, believed in him, loved him. The next morning I watched from our bedroom window as Ethan packed his golf clubs into his car for a business trip to visit clients who didn't golf. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, but it quickly hardened into something else, something colder, more determined. I picked up my phone and dialed our HR director. "It's Avery. I need Hannah Collins's personnel file. And yes, it's urgent." 20 minutes later, I learned that Hannah had listed her emergency contact as Tyler Green, her fiancé, the same Tyler Green who happened to be our brilliant senior data analyst, the one Ethan had hired 2 years ago, the one who had pictures of himself and Hannah on his desk smiling on camping trips and at fancy restaurants. Poor Tyler. Did he know? Was he as clueless as I had been? I found myself in Tyler's office that afternoon, casually stopping by his workspace. He was hunched over his keyboard, dark-rimmed glasses sliding down his nose, completely focused on lines of code. "Tyler, got a minute?" I asked. He looked up, surprised to see the company's co-founder at his desk. "Of course, Miss Mitchell. What can I do for you?" "That presentation you did last month on predictive analytics was fantastic," I said, noting the framed photo of Hannah on his desk. "I think you might be perfect for an upcoming client meeting." His face lit up. "Really? That would be amazing." "It's short notice, though," I continued. "This Friday through Sunday at Azure Bay Retreat. This weekend." His enthusiasm dimmed slightly. "Hannah and I were supposed to have dinner with her parents, but I'm sure she'd understand for such an opportunity." I smiled. I'm sure she would. As I walked away, I felt a strange mixture of guilt and anticipation. Tyler was an innocent in all this, but sometimes innocence needed to see the truth, however painful. Back in my office, I looked down at my wedding ring, a 2.5-carat diamond Ethan had upgraded on our 10th anniversary. It felt heavier now, like a shackle rather than a symbol of love. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to our executive team. Emergency strategy meeting. Azure Bay retreat, Saturday, 11 a.m. Attendance mandatory for selected personnel. A wave of nausea washed over me as I realized what I was about to do. I was sending a man I barely knew into an emotional ambush, yet every time doubt tried to creep in, I pictured Ethan's hand resting possessively on Hannah's lower back, the lies he told so effortlessly, and the years I'd spent believing I was the only one in his heart. The guilt clawed at me, but the fire of betrayal burned hotter, reminding me there could be no justice without pain, mine or Tyler's. The plan was forming in my mind, crystal clear, precise. I'd spent 14 years being the supportive wife, the business partner who made things happen behind the scenes. While Ethan took center stage, I'd been the foundation while he was the facade. Now it was time to bring the whole thing crashing down. Thursday night, I sat alone in our spacious condo living room, nursing a glass of whiskey, Ethan's favorite, Macallan 18 ironically, while scrolling through years of photos on my phone. Our wedding day when we'd promised forever, the day we signed the lease on our first real office, vacations in Maui, Tokyo, Santorini, Ethan's arm always around me, both of us smiling into the camera. Were those smiles ever real? When did he stop loving me? Or had he ever truly loved me at all? I remembered how we met in business school. Me with my strategic mind and perfectionist tendencies, him with his charisma and vision. We complemented each other perfectly. I made his dreams possible. He made my life exciting. I thought we were invincible together. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about the disrespect, the lies, the way he'd looked me in the eyes over dinner and lied about Seattle when they were planning their romantic getaway. It was about Hannah sitting in meetings with me, taking my coffee order, smiling politely while sleeping with my husband behind my back. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan, landed in Seattle. Meeting prep all night, miss you. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured another drink and called my sister, Rachel. I think Ethan is having an affair, I said the moment she answered. The silence that followed told me everything. You knew? I whispered. I suspected, Rachel admitted. There were rumors at the holiday party. Someone saw them in the hallway. I didn't want to tell you without proof. My chest tightened. Who else knows, Rachel? Does it matter? What are you going to do? I'm going to handle it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. After hanging up, I curled into myself on the sofa, allowing the tears to finally come. Not dainty, dignified tears, but ugly, heaving sobs that left me gasping. I cried for the children we never had, for the years I dedicated to him, for the fool I'd been. Friday morning, I packed meticulously. My power suits, my best lingerie, unworn for months, I realized bitterly. My favorite red lipstick. I left our condo with determined steps, driving myself to Azure Bay retreat. Ethan had taken the company car, the one I'd signed for last year as a surprise for his birthday. The resort was even more spectacular than the photos. Perched on cliffs overlooking the Pacific, with a certain old-world glamour. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, staff who knew when to appear and when to disappear. I checked into my suite, one floor above the room Ethan had reserved with Hannah. From my balcony, I watched them arrive in the afternoon, Ethan helping Hannah from the car, his hand lingering on her lower back, her laughter floating up to me on the ocean breeze as he whispered something in her ear. She wore a floral sundress. I recognized it. We'd approved the expense report for the client gift Ethan had supposedly purchased for a female CEO. I photographed them with my zoom lens as they checked in. As the bellhop took their bags, as Ethan slipped his arm around Hannah's waist in the elevator, believing they were now safely anonymous. That evening, I ordered room service and monitored their movements. They had dinner at the resort's Michelin-starred restaurant. I could see their table from a discreet corner of the bar. Ethan ordered the wine I'd always chosen for us on special occasions. Each time he reached across the table to brush a stray hair from her face, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. His smile, the one that used to be mine alone, now belonged to someone else. The pain pulsed so sharply I had to grip the edge of my seat to steady myself, fighting the urge to storm over and demand answers right there in front of everyone. But I knew I couldn't. This wasn't just about rage, it was about exposing the truth completely. They held hands across the table. He looked happier than he had in our home for months. My phone buzzed with another text from him. Meeting's going well. Working late with the team tonight. How are things at home? I typed back, everything's exactly as it should be. Later, I accessed the company credit card portal from my laptop. There it was. The trail of evidence, dinner reservations, weekend getaways disguised as client meetings, jewelry purchases coded as miscellaneous business expenses. For months, no years. This wasn't a fling. This was a parallel life. I remembered the night last year when I'd miscarried our second child. Ethan had been stuck in Portland during a snowstorm. I'd been alone in the hospital, clutching my phone, waiting for him to at least call. Now I wondered where he'd really been, who had been comforting him while I bled and grieved alone. I discovered something else in those credit card statements. A receipt for an engagement ring from Tiffany's, purchased last week. The same week, Hannah had suddenly started wearing gloves indoors, claiming eczema. Was he planning to leave me? To marry her once he'd figured out how to protect his half of our company? Saturday morning arrived with perfect sunshine, and the knowledge that Tyler Green would be checking in around 10 a.m. for our emergency meeting at 11. I dressed carefully in a crimson sheath dress that had always made me feel invincible, applied my makeup with precision, and headed downstairs to greet him. Tyler arrived exactly on time, looking slightly nervous in his best suit, carrying a laptop bag and overnight case. "Ms. Mitchell, thank you for this opportunity," he said earnestly, shaking my hand. I felt a pang of guilt looking at his open, trusting face. "Tyler, I need to be honest with you." His brow furrowed. "I don't understand. I need you to come with me. There's something you need to see, and Tyler, I'm truly sorry about what's about to happen." I'd always been the planner in our relationship, the one who thought 10 steps ahead, the one who anticipated problems before they arose. Ethan was the dreamer. I made those dreams reality. It was time to use those same skills for myself. "Miss Mitchell? Avery? What's going on?" Tyler asked as we rode the elevator up to the 4th floor. "When was the last time you spoke to Hannah?" I asked instead of answering. "Last night. She said she was at her sister's in San Diego for the weekend." His eyes narrowed. "Why?" The elevator doors opened. I took a deep breath. "Because she's here, Tyler, with my husband." His face went through a rapid sequence of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. That can't be right. There must be some mistake." "I wish there was," I said softly, "but I've seen them. They're in room 512. Tyler shook his head. "No, we're engaged. We've been planning our wedding for months." "She wouldn't," Tyler whispered. "I thought the same about Ethan," I said. 14 years of marriage. I was wrong." He leaned against the wall, his face ashen. "I need to see for myself. That's why you're here." We stood in silence outside room 512. From inside came the sound of laughter, Ethan's deep chuckle, Hannah's musical giggle, Tyler's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "What's your plan?" he asked, voice tight. "Justice," I replied. "Not revenge. Justice." I'd spent the previous day making calls to our company's board members, our legal counsel, our biggest clients and investors. I'd prepared documentation of every expense Ethan had falsified, every company resource he'd misused for his affair. I'd secured the support of key stakeholders who were appalled at his behavior, both personal and professional. What Ethan never understood was that while he was the charismatic face of our company, I was its backbone. People trusted me, respected me, and they were ready to stand behind me. In the quiet moments between calls, I found myself trembling with rage and heartbreak. Memories kept flooding back. His whispered promises in the dark, his hand resting on my belly when we dreamed of a family, the way he'd once looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. Each memory was like a dagger, but each dagger steeled my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for my company anymore. I was fighting for the woman I used to be before he broke me. But in the darkest corners of my mind, fear gnawed at me. What if no one believed me? What if the board thought I was overreacting, or worse, that I was unstable? What if I ended up losing everything I had left, and proved Ethan right when he always joked I couldn't handle things alone? The thought sent a shiver through me, but I clenched my jaw and reminded myself that I had the truth, and the truth was my greatest weapon. Here's what's going to happen, I explained to Tyler as we moved away from the door. I've arranged for a real emergency board meeting in the conference room downstairs at 11. All the key executives and board members are either here or joining virtually. Tyler looked at me with newfound respect. You've been planning this since the moment you found out. But there's more. I need your technical expertise. We moved to my suite, where I laid out the rest of the plan. I needed access to certain files Ethan had been hiding. As our senior data analyst, Tyler had the skills to retrieve them legally through our secure company networks. What we found confirmed my suspicions. Ethan had been planning to push me out of the company. Documents outlining strategies to dilute my shares, fabricated performance concerns, even preliminary divorce papers hidden in encrypted folders. He was going to blindside you, Tyler said, scrolling through the files. Just like Hannah was doing to me. People who betray the ones who love them rarely stop at one betrayal, I replied. As we worked, I saw Tyler transform from a devastated fiancé to a determined ally. Like me, his pain was hardening into purpose. What do you need me to do? He asked. At 11:30, I want you to call their room. Tell Hannah there's an urgent work matter requiring both her and Ethan in the main conference room immediately. Say it's about a data breach. That'll get Ethan moving. Tyler nodded. And then? Then we wait for them in the conference room with the board, the evidence, and the truth. I'd chosen the setting carefully. The resort's main conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. A stunning backdrop for the confrontation to come. I'd arranged the seating strategically, placing key allies where they could offer support. On each board member's tablet was a comprehensive file detailing Ethan's ethical breaches, financial improprieties, and plans to oust me from my own company. What about after? Tyler asked. What happens to us, you and me, after this is all over? I looked at him thoughtfully. I'd been so focused on exposing Ethan and Hannah that I hadn't fully considered the aftermath. We rebuild, I said. Differently, better. At 11:15, board members and executives began filing into the conference room. Some looked confused, others grim. My closest ally on the board, Eleanor Hudson, embraced me. Are you sure about this, Avery? She whispered. Once it's done, there's no going back. I've been living a lie for years, I replied. I'm ready for the truth. Whatever comes with it. At 11:30 precisely, Tyler made the call from a corner of the conference room. I watched his face harden as he spoke briefly with Hannah, delivering the fabricated emergency that would bring them both downstairs. The minutes that followed were the longest of my life. I stood at the head of the conference table, outwardly calm, while my heart thundered in my chest. This was the moment everything would change. The culmination of pain, betrayal, careful planning, and steely resolve. As I waited, a cold sweat broke out at the nape of my neck. Doubts slammed into me like crashing waves. What if I had missed something? What if Ethan twisted the narrative so convincingly that the board turned on me instead? For a heartbeat, terror clawed at my chest. The terrifying thought that I could lose not just my marriage, but my company, my reputation, everything I'd fought so hard to build. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stand tall. This was my only chance for the truth to win. The door opened at 11:42. Ethan entered first, his expression shifting from professional concern to shock as he registered my presence behind him. Hannah froze in the doorway, her eyes darting around the room before landing on Tyler. Avery? Ethan recovered quickly, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. What's all this? I thought I was being called about a data breach. I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't warm the eyes, the kind that promises consequences. Welcome to the emergency board meeting, Ethan. We were just discussing the future of the company. Your future, specifically. I don't understand, Ethan said, his confident facade beginning to crack as he looked around the room at the somber faces of our board members. What emergency board meeting? I'm supposed to be in Seattle. Are you? I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. That's interesting because your hotel reservation clearly shows you're right here. Room 512, ocean view, king bed, champagne package. The color drained from his face as Hannah stepped partially behind him, her hand clutching his arm. Tyler, she whispered, finally noticing her fiancé standing in the corner of the room. What are you doing here? Tyler crossed his arms. I was invited to a very important meeting. Unlike you, Hannah, I'm actually where I said I'd be this weekend. Ethan quickly shifted into damage control mode, his specialty. He forced a laugh, running a hand through his hair. Clearly, there's been some misunderstanding. I had to change my plans last minute. Hannah and I are working on the Brighton proposal. We needed focused time away from the office. The Brighton proposal was completed last month, interjected board member Samuel Grant. I personally approved the final version. Ethan's smile faltered. Well, they requested revisions. Stop lying, Ethan, I said quietly, pressing a button on the remote in my hand. The large screen behind me illuminated with photos. Ethan and Hannah entering the hotel, dining together, his arm around her waist in the elevator. You're not in Seattle, you're not working, and this isn't your first weekend away together, is it? Hannah stepped forward, her voice trembling. Tyler, I can explain. Can you explain this too? I interrupted, clicking to the next image, a credit card statement showing a Tiffany's purchase. A new engagement ring. Ethan, were you planning to divorce me before or after proposing to her? The room fell deathly silent. Even Ethan, master of manipulation, seemed momentarily at a loss for words. I continued, my voice gaining strength with each word. But this meeting isn't about your infidelity, Ethan. That's between you and me. And apparently, Hannah and Tyler. This meeting is about something far more serious. With another click, the screen changed to display financial records, emails, and legal documents. This is about your systematic attempt to push me out of the company I co-founded. About the funds you've been diverting. About the clients you've been misleading. About the false expenses you've been filing. Eleanor Hudson, our CFO and board member, stood up. We've verified everything, Ethan. The irregularities, the cover-ups, the plans to dilute Avery's shares through a series of questionable transactions. It's all documented. Ethan's charm offensive crashed into panic. These are lies. Avery is clearly fabricating this out of some sort of jealousy, or... The documents came from your own encrypted files, Ethan. Tyler interjected, stepping forward. Files you thought no one could access? But you forgot something important. I designed our security protocols. The twist of fate was almost poetic. The woman Ethan had betrayed me with was engaged to the very man who could unlock his secret plans. The universe had a sense of humor after all. Ethan turned to face me, his expression hardening. You planned all this, set me up. No, Ethan, I replied evenly. I simply revealed what you were hiding. There's a difference. The meeting that followed was both excruciating and liberating. The board members reviewed the evidence methodically. Ethan attempted various defenses, claiming ignorance, blaming overwork, suggesting temporary lapses in judgment, but the documentation was irrefutable. Hannah stood silently weeping in the corner, her engagement ring, her original one from Tyler, twisting nervously on her finger. After an hour of discussion, Samuel Grant cleared his throat. In light of this evidence, the board has no choice but to call for an immediate vote of no confidence in Ethan Mitchell as CEO. Ethan's face contorted in rage. You can't do this. I built this company. We built this company, I corrected quietly, and you were willing to destroy it and me for your own selfish desires. The vote was unanimous. Effective immediately, Ethan was removed from his position as CEO. Security would escort him from the premises and restrict his access to company systems. Legal proceedings would follow regarding the financial improprieties. As the meeting concluded, board members filed out solemnly. Some patted my shoulder in support. Others couldn't meet my eyes, uncomfortable with the messy human drama behind the corporate decision. When only Ethan, Hannah, Tyler, and I remained, the personal reckoning began. You've ruined everything, Ethan hissed at me. 14 years together, and this is how you repay me? I felt an unexpected calm settle over me. No, Ethan, this is how you repaid me, for my loyalty, my love, my trust. For the 2 babies we lost while I believed we were grieving together. My voice cracked slightly on those last words. But you were already gone, weren't you, just waiting for the right moment to make it official? A wave of anguish crashed over me, memories of late nights spent comforting each other, of whispered dreams of growing old together. The rawness of those moments felt like open wounds now, salt poured in by every lie he'd told. Yet even as the pain threatened to overwhelm me, A quiet strength rose from somewhere deep inside, a certainty that I deserved better than the hollow man standing before me. Tyler turned to Hannah. "Were you ever going to tell me, or just leave me at the altar?" Hannah's mascara streaked down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't plan to fall in love with Ethan." "Love?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Is that what you think this is? Ask him about the other assistants, Hannah. Ask him about Laura from accounting 3 years ago, or Michelle from marketing before that." Ethan's shocked expression confirmed what had only been a calculated guess on my part. But I'd known, somehow. "Liar." "You're fired, Hannah," I said quietly. "Human Resources will contact you about the terms of your separation." As security arrived to escort Ethan from the conference room, he made one last desperate attempt. "Avery, we can fix this. We can work something out." "The time for fixing things was before you broke them, Ethan," I replied softly. "I'll have my lawyer contact yours about divorce proceedings. Please don't contact me directly again." I watched him walk away, the man I'd loved for 14 years, the man I'd built a life and a company with, and felt not triumph, but a profound sadness mixed with relief. Like setting down a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for so long. Tyler stood beside me as security escorted both Ethan and Hannah out. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now," I said, looking out at the vast ocean beyond the windows, "now we rebuild." 1 year later, I stood at the window of my new office, the CEO's office, looking out at the city skyline. The company had not just survived the scandal, but thrived under my leadership. We'd weathered the initial media storm, the whispers, the speculation. In the end, our clients stayed because they trusted our work, my work, and our board had unanimously backed my vision for the future. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. Ethan hadn't fought it. The evidence of his misconduct left him little leverage. He'd moved to Seattle last fall. I heard Ethan was working for a competitor at a fraction of his former salary and influence. Sometimes karma works efficiently. I opened the invitation sitting on my desk, a charity gala next weekend, where our company was being recognized for a new mentorship program I'd started for women in technology. I needed a +1. My finger hovered over Tyler's name in my contacts. After that fateful weekend, we'd developed an unexpected friendship, two betrayed souls finding comfort in mutual understanding. We'd met occasionally for coffee to discuss work, then dinner to discuss life. Recently, those dinners had started feeling less like therapy sessions and more like something else, something tentative and new. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. The wound had healed, but the scar was still sensitive. I set my phone down without calling him. Instead, I reviewed the quarterly reports. Profits up 22%, employee satisfaction scores at an all-time high, 3 major new clients signed. I'd not only survived Ethan's betrayal, I'd proven I never needed him at all. My assistant, a young man with impeccable credentials and a boyfriend he frequently mentioned, knocked on my door. "Your 4 o'clock is here, Miss Mitchell." "Thank you, Alex. Send them in." To my surprise, it was Rachel who walked through the door carrying a gift bag. "I know you're busy running your empire," she said, hugging me, "but it's your birthday, and your big sister refuses to let you work through it." I'd completely forgotten. In the aftermath of everything, birthdays had seemed trivial. Rachel set the bag on my desk. "Open it." Inside was a framed photograph, not of me and Ethan, not of the past, but of me at 8 years old, standing proudly beside a lemonade stand I'd built myself, my first business venture. "Remember what you told Mom that day?" Rachel asked. "When she asked why you were doing it?" I smiled, memories flooding back. "I said I wanted to see if I could." "And you could," she said softly. "You always could, Avery, with or without him." That evening, I left work early, a rare occurrence, and took myself to dinner at my favorite restaurant. The maitre seated me at a quiet corner table. "Will someone be joining you, Miss Mitchell?" "No," I replied, unfolding my napkin. "Just me tonight." As I sipped my wine, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Happy birthday. Hope it's a good one." I hesitated, then typed back, "Thank you. That charity gala next weekend? Would you like to be my +1? As friends?" His response came quickly. "I'd like that, as friends for now." I smiled, feeling something unfurl inside me. Not passion or desire, but possibility. The possibility of trusting again someday, of opening my heart when I was ready, on my terms. The server appeared at my table. Would you like to hear our specials tonight? Yes, I said, smiling wider than I had in a long time. I'd like to hear everything. Later, walking home through the city streets, I passed a young couple arguing on a corner, her gesturing wildly, him looking defensive. I wanted to tell her what I'd learned, that sometimes the end of what you thought you wanted becomes the beginning of what you actually need. That betrayal, while devastating, doesn't have to be defining. That rebuilding after destruction often results in something stronger than before. Instead, I continued past them, up to my penthouse apartment with its views of the city I'd conquered twice, once with Ethan, and now, more sweetly, on my own. I kicked off my heels, poured a nightcap, and raised my glass to my reflection in the window. To knowing your worth, I whispered, and to never settling for less again. The woman who gazed back at me wasn't broken anymore. She wasn't bitter or vengeful. She was something much more powerful. Dear friend, sometimes life breaks us in places we thought were unshakable, forcing us to face truths we never wanted to see. But remember, as the Stoics taught, the obstacle is the way. What tries to destroy you can become the very fire that tempers you into something stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. You are not defined by who betrays you, but by how you rise after the fall. Be patient with your healing, gentle with your scars, and fierce in your commitment to never settle for less than the respect and love you deserve. You are whole, you are enough, and you always were. If this story moved you, please like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful journeys. Thank you for watching.